Okay, ladies and gentlemen, you know we are going to be doing our probably favorite thing, talking in-depth dynasty strategy, how we should be optimizing for your specific league settings. Also looking at some real dynasty teams and figuring out, okay, maybe this team isn't ready to contend this season. Maybe we should go through and move a couple assets in these trades, target these players to try to contend for 2024. But before we get into anything here, you better be going down there, dropping a like on this video. You better be subscribed to the channel if you play Dynasty Fantasy Football. And of course, if you want to get one of your teams highlighted in a live stream, if you want to get one of your teams broken down in a personalized podcast by yours truly, the way you do that is sign up for flockfantasy.com. You can find the link in the comment section, the description, the live chat. We have so many things over there, including everything you see here, plus a lot more coming soon. When you sign up with promo code FLOCK for a special launch, you're going to get 30% off. And with promo code FLOCK in the Mother Flocker package, yours truly will go through and break down your dynasty team. But I think that should be roughly about it. Let's go ahead and let's dive into our first team here. This first one going to be coming out from Patterson. Thank you, my man, for being a member of the flock and supporting the channel. Says, hey, Mason, I've submitted my roster. What moves do you think we should make with so much draft capital? So we are going to be looking at a team that has a decent amount to work with here in terms of the rookie picks. But before we even get into that, what I want to look at is the league scoring. Here, it's going to be a 6-point passing touchdown format. Outside of that, there's not going to be too much that we need to discuss. I mean, going over here, field goal, team defense, I don't give a damn. If we're looking at the special teams defense, who cares? Let's dive into the roster. And in that 6-point passing touchdown league, well, I've said this over and over again, but there, I'm going to be a little more inclined to go through and grab a quarterback just like Trevor Lawrence. Maybe he's not Lamar Jackson. Maybe he's not Justin Fields with his rushing upside, but given the fact it's a 6-point passing touchdown format instead of a 4-point passing touchdown league, if Lawrence were to go out there and have a phenomenal real-life NFL season, that can actually translate a little bit more to fantasy football success, where it's harder to do so in a 4-point passing touchdown league. It's harder to compete with that guy, Lamar Jackson, if he's going to be rushing the ball for 70 yards a game. But anyway, quarterback here, we have Trevor Lawrence to build around for the long term. I think you can be very excited about that. We have Jordan Love there at the super flex. Going down to the bench, I mean, we have Malik Willis. We really don't have anything else. Looking at the rookie picks, we have that 103 in particular is most likely going to be a quarterback. So we have the 101 as well. So we are going to be able to bring in Bijan Robinson. But 103, I think you're going to be taking your favorite of whoever's left between Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, and Anthony Richardson. And I honestly think that if we're looking at this quarterback room where we have Jordan Love as a QB2, I would really like to invest into the quarterback position. So not only are we in a position where QB is going to be the best player available, but also, we are in a fine spot to go in that direction. It's not like we're sitting here with 4 quarterback ones saying, okay, yeah, I know Bryce Young's the best player available at the 103, but I really can't afford it. No, let's go ahead. Let's take that quarterback. Now, going over to running back, we are going to be looking at Kenneth Walker, Hassan Haskins in the starting lineup, Tyler Algier down there with Ramondre Stevenson in the flex. And then going down to the bench, we have Devin Singletary as another depth piece. So overall, the running back room is strong as is, right? I mean, you have Kenneth Walker, you have a top 5 running back in Dynasty. Ramondre Stevenson, another young, promising player that's ascending, was used at times as prime Alvin Kamara this past year, should be hyper productive this season, as well as obviously provide you with some long-term upside. Algier looks like a fine depth running back. If he's my RB3, RB4 on a roster, I'm actually going to be really excited about that. So in general, this running back room is fine as it stands, but we are also going to be adding in Bijan Robinson. So if we're adding in Bijan Robinson, and not only do we have Kenneth Walker, a top 5 running back in Dynasty, but we bring in the #1 overall RB, like, there's nothing to complain about here. This is a group that has a nice balance of both long-term upside as well as that short-term production. Now, going over to wide receiver, definitely going to be the weak point of the roster. I mean, we have Treylon Burks in the starting lineup, but beyond that, I mean, we really don't have anybody you can get excited about. And of course, you don't even know at this point if Treylon Burks is for sure going to be a hit. I mean, I think he was a pretty damn good prospect going into the NFL last year, but at the end of the day, we didn't really see much his rookie season due to the injuries. Not necessarily the best situation either. Now, I feel like we are going to get I don't want to say saved, but yeah, probably saved here in this rookie draft. Because if you are looking at the 108 as well as the 109, in my mind, we are most likely going to be able to take both Quentin Johnston as well as Jordan Addison here. I think both wide receivers have red flags on their profile. I mean, with Quentin Johnston, we never saw the 40% market share dominance numbers in college. With Jordan Addison, the man, of course, is a little bit too small, took a step back from his sophomore season to his junior year, but they also have some elite traits on their profile where you have both players as early declares. You have both players breaking out extremely early as true freshmen. You have both players dominating as sophomores. So yeah, we have some weak points on both respective profiles. They're not Jackson Smith and Jigba level good, but we also have some very strong points as well, where I think that at 8, at 9, we're most likely going to be taking those two wide receivers, operating under the assumption that we already have Jackson Smith and Jigba, we already have Jahmyr Gibbs, we already have Will Levis all off the board. Now, if Will Levis ends up falling to us at 8 and he goes to the Indianapolis Colts at pick 4 in this year's draft, then honestly, we probably have to take Levis, but as it stands, I think we're most likely going to be looking at wide receiver 8 and 9 as both best players available and as guys that will make a difference on this roster in particular. So I think we've done a good job putting ourselves in a position where we are able to take advantage of the values that are on the board. We're not having to reach for what we quote unquote need, because naturally the way this rookie draft should fall, you are going to get the players that you need at the best value possible. Now, going over to tight ends, it's kind of gross. I mean, we have Noah Fant. That's about it. So I know a lot of people are going to say, okay, well, yeah, let's go ahead and let's address the tight end position in the rookie draft. Let's go take Michael Mayer at the 201. Let's go take Dalton Kincaid at the 203. Let's go take Darnell Washington at the 208. I'm not telling you to avoid those players in particular, but I would say if we are looking at rookie tight end production, if this team wants to be competitive this next season, those rookie tight ends aren't really going to be getting the job done for us. So if we wanted to be competitive this next year, and at the 201, we already have everybody that we would like off the board, like Zay Flowers went at the 111 in this draft. Say instead we're looking at Jalen Hyatt, Michael Mayer, or maybe Roschon Johnson, right, to choose from. I wouldn't mind if at the 201, the 203, you wanted to sell these picks for some veteran tight end production. If you wanted to sell these picks for David Njoku, Evan Ingram, those tight ends that, yeah, they're never going to be a top 3 overall tight end in fantasy, but they are guys that we can get at a discount and we can feel comfortable about the price point that we're paying. Now, of course, if you don't want to do that, I think we could always go through. I think we could always look to sell one of these guys, or at least sell one of these picks, because if you are looking at the 201, 203, I do think you're in a spot where it's a flat tier. In my mind, the prospects that you have at the beginning of the second round are very comparable to the guys that you're going to have in the middle of the second round, the end of the second round. And if that's the case, I would rather use the name brand appeal of like the 201 saying, okay, it's the 13th overall pick in the draft, and try to just move a few spots up. I know you've probably heard us talk about this over and over and over again, but if we wanted to go and make a move outside of trading for one of those veteran tight ends with one of those early second round picks, if instead you wanted to package, say, the 201 and 203 together and try to go get pick 10, try to go get pick 7, I actually wouldn't mind that at all. Of course, you're paying the 201, 203 just to move up 3 picks in general, but I think you could be looking at Zach Charbonnet at pick 10, and in comparison at the 201, 203, like we were saying, you're coming away with the combo of Roschon Johnson and Zach Evans. Would I rather have Roschon Johnson and Zach Evans or Zach Charbonnet? Just give me Zach Charbonnet. Just give me the player that we are a little more comfortable about in general. But I think that should be about it in terms of what we have with this breakdown. Those late second round picks, the 208, 210, I actually think that those are going to be comparable options to what you have with the beginning of the second rounders. However, if we were going to look to trade them, we're not going to get as much. So if anything, I'd probably look to keep those late seconds, just take some swings on some players that you like. And of course, if we're trying to make one of those deals, right, we're trying to trade the 201 and get back David Njoku, and they say, you know what, man, it's super close for us. Can you throw in a 3rd round pick? Do not hesitate immediately. Any deal that you want, regardless of if it was something we talked about in this breakdown or not, that 308, that 309, that 311 is such a long shot that if we can just use it as a little sweetener to get any deal we want done, I'm doing it. Please don't be stubborn. Please be willing to let go of those picks quickly. Overall, I think this is a team that's in a very interesting position, and that on paper, it looks like this is not a contending roster immediately. But once we add in Bijan Robinson, once we add in an elite rookie quarterback, once we add in a couple high upside wide receivers and possibly make another trade involving those second round picks to get another difference making player, I think that this is a team that will have the upside. It's definitely not a guarantee, but have the upside to be competitive this next season. So I don't think we should be going through and tearing this down for 2024 quite yet. I mean, I think it would be a little premature to do so. But again, thank you, my friend, for being a member of the flock. And as always, if there's anything that I can do for you, please do not hesitate to reach out to me. I'd be super happy to get anything you want done, especially if it has anything to do with improving flockfantasy.com. If there's an idea that you have, do not hesitate to reach out to me. But let's go over to our next team. Daza says, morning Mason, UK follower here, signed up with the Mother Flogger tier and looking forward to the review of my roster. Happy to record as part of a YouTube video too. It's a 14-team start 9, 1 quarterback, half PPR, tight end premium, full PPR league. Okay, so you're getting a full extra point at the tight end position. A full extra point per reception at the tight end position. Here, this means we can actually start tight ends in the flex spot. I think in a lot of leagues where you're only getting the half a point extra per reception at tight end, people are going to overreact to how much of a premium it actually is. If y'all don't know, we actually just uploaded our Dynasty research book on flockfantasy.com. Just go over to flockfantasy.com, go to the draft guide section, and you can check it out there. But we talk about, in general, how we need to be adjusting with, actually not general, very specifics to your tight end premium league. And we break down the numbers on if it's a half point tight end premium format or if it's a full point tight end premium league. And essentially, long story short, summarize it. Full point tight end premium, we're actually going to be putting tight ends in the flex spot. Half point, we probably are not. But currently sitting at the 103 and 107, having moving on from Trevor Lawrence this offseason. Depending on how the first two picks go, we are looking at Quentin Johnston or JG at the 103. Okay, Jahmyr Gibbs. Okay, I'm being stupid. I was like, I haven't seen Gibbs typed out that way. Not too bothered about roster construction at the moment. More about best player available. Ideally looking to package some of my assets on the bench, aka Sky Moore, John Mechie, with either Elijah Mitchell, Jameson Williams to tier up as it's only a start 9. I will say it's only a start 9, right? So your initial thought is maybe it is going to be a little bit shallower in general. But keep in mind, it's a 14-team, 1 quarterback format, right? So if we're going through and breaking this down, this start 9 league, you are going to be starting 8 skill positional players in a 14-team format. That is 112 total skill positional starters. If we are looking at, oh dear God, what is the dog doing? I'm going to go yell at the dog. 1 second, sorry. It's okay. It's okay. I know. It's okay. I know. It's okay. Okay, sorry. We just had to grab her real quick. She is going nuts. Okay, that is very, very bad, but stay here. Come talk, buddy. Hi. Okay, what was going on out there? Okay, what was going on? But anyway, let's go back into this. Oh my gosh. You're starting 112 skill positional players. 112. If we are looking at that in comparison to like a 10-team, 1 quarterback format or a 10-team superflex league, right? If you're playing in a 10-team superflex league where you start 10 guys, but one of them is a superflex, then at that point, you're starting 80 total skill positional players across the entire format compared to 112 in this kind of league. So if you were looking at the gap that we have there, we should be primarily focusing in on trying to grab Depth. I understand start 9. Initially, you think, yeah, depth isn't going to matter too much. But no, I mean, if you look at the details of this, I actually don't love the idea of going through and trading those 2-for-1 type moves. I think if we're going to look at this 2-for-1 type moves, it's going to be better off in that 10-teamer rather than the 14-team league. But anyway, going over to quarterback, we have Lamar Jackson. Super excited about Lamar Jackson in a 1-quarterback format. Very few players have the same type of upside that you are going to be getting from Lamar. Going over to the bench, I mean, we are going to be rolling with no backup quarterback. So honestly, we may have to go out there. We may have to grab a QB. Now, what's very interesting is being in that 14-team 1-quarterback format, it's not going to be as easy to grab a backup quarterback when we need one as it would be in a 10-team 1-quarterback league, as it would be in a 12-team 1-quarterback format. Because in general, in that 14-team league, you're going to have probably a few teams hoarding 3 or 4 starting quarterbacks, thinking that they can, I mean, just play the market and get the exact price that you're wanting. And then everybody else that's left over with only 2 starters, they're not really going to be that willing to go through and sell one of those players. So in general, I mean, quarterback's going to be a little bit harder to come by here, and it may actually be a position that we're going to look to go through and address in the rookie draft if we can. Now, going over to running back, we are going to have Brian Robinson, Malik Davis in the starting lineup. Going down to the bench, we have Kenneth Gainwell, so not much at RB. Now, we are sitting with the 103, so I understand that you were saying, okay, well, Mason, I don't really care to go with our team need in our rookie draft. We would rather focus in on possibly going ahead and taking the best player available. And in my mind, in that 1-quarterback format, 103, best player available will be Jahmyr Gibbs. Now, of course, the NFL draft may change things. We may see a nasty landing spot. We may see him falling further in the NFL draft than we initially thought. And if that were to occur, then yeah, I mean, maybe we pivot off of Jahmyr Gibbs at the 103. But in reality, I think you find yourself in a very good situation. And I think the 103, the best player available, will most likely be Jahmyr Gibbs, operating under the assumption that both Bijan Robinson as well as Jackson Smith-Njigba are off the board. And this is a team that also desperately needs a running back. So I'm not necessarily telling you to go through and take Jahmyr Gibbs over Quentin Johnston just because this team needs running back help and it really doesn't need much at wide receiver. But I don't know. I think that it's just best player available and team need coming together, which is the perfect situation. Just smash Jahmyr Gibbs to the 103. Now, going over to wide receiver, by far and away the strength of the team here. And if you're looking at that 14-team format, I mean, I love building around these guys that are going to give us both the production in the short term, but the long-term security. Because if you're going to be looking at this, you can rely on Lamb, Garrett Wilson, Drake London, that trio of guys for the, I mean, pretty much rest of the league history here. I mean, you are going to have these guys forever with how young they are. And at the same time, all these players are being drafted as either wide receiver 1s or wide receiver 2s. Right now, if you're looking at underdog drafts where you are just looking at 2023 production. So we're getting the short-term production with these wide receivers, as well as the fact that they are just so damn young. Jameson Williams, I'm actually a little bit more willing to roster Jameson Williams in a format like this, just given the fact that, I mean, he can swing a week. And if we're playing in this 14-team league where it's going to be a little bit deeper in general, if Jameson Williams has one of those weeks where he's not getting a lot of volume, he only has 4 targets, he comes away with 2 receptions, 17 receiving yards, it's not going to be an auto lose, right? If we had a shallower format, in general there, I'm going to be looking to go through and try to move off of Jameson Williams and get someone that we can project the target share a little more comfortably. But no, I actually am fine with Jameson Williams here, especially with the context of the rest of this wide receiver core. John Mechie, Sky Moore, I understand the thought process and saying, okay, well, yeah, let's go ahead. Let's move on from one of these guys. Let's upgrade from Jameson Williams if we can. And yeah, I'm not going to tell you not to do that. If you could go through and you could sell John Mechie, Sky Moore, and Jameson Williams and go get Chris Olave, of course, we are doing it in a heartbeat. But in reality, I think you're probably going to have a very difficult time finding any kind of value that you like for either Sky Moore or John Mechie. So in reality, I think these are guys that are probably just going to be stuck on your bench for the foreseeable future, because I don't know anybody that's willing to go out there and trade for those players. Tight ends, we have Andrews. We also have Greg Dulcich, and I actually really like this situation in that full point tight end premium format. I think that you can start a tight end in a flex spot here. I think Greg Dulcich, if we're going to be comparing him to someone like Odell Beckham Jr. in this format in particular, could actually be a weekly starter that we can rely on. So I really like this team top to bottom once we can address the running back situation and we're not having to reach on running back in this year's draft. If we're looking at the 103, like we said, this will be Jahmyr Gibbs. If Gibbs goes at 2, we're taking Jackson Smith-Njigba. We're not thinking twice about it. If we're looking at the 107, this is a little bit of a nasty range as we have the top 6 picks in a 1 quarterback format being the main tier for me. You have Bijan 1, JSN, Gibbs 2 and 3. Then after that, you have some order of Quentin Johnston, Jordan Addison, Zach Charbonnet. Those are the top 6 guys, but with the steam that Zay Flowers has been getting as of late, I think there's an outside chance you may see Zay Flowers in your draft go ahead of one of those 6 players. And if that were to be the case, we are sitting right in the perfect range to be able to catch a falling value. And even if the top 6 guys go in front of us, Zay Flowers can be a wide receiver that makes a difference in this format. So I would be fine going Zay Flowers at 7. 203, like we were discussing, I'm not opposed to going through and taking a quarterback here. I'm going to be assuming that CJ Stroud, Bryce Young, Anthony Richardson are all off the board. 203, I think you're pretty much just going to be looking at Will Levis if he is able to fall. And this is that team that could use another quarterback to pair alongside Lamar Jackson. Overall, I really like the roster. I think that this is a team in a 14-team format in general where the bar is going to be a little bit lower to be a true contender, where we can contend both for this season while having that long-term vision with the core. We have our future first next year where just in case, say CeeDee Lamb tears his ACL, Garrett Wilson, high ankle sprain, and all of a sudden we are looking that like we're not going to be able to compete this next season. We start off 1 and 3. Then at that point, we are still in a position where we can go through and we can sell some veteran assets. We can play for 2024, building around our young core when they are healthy, and also trying to get a high pick in the 2024 rookie draft with our own first rounder. But overall, I love this team, my friend. There's not too much that we can be doing. I like it. And yeah, I think that's all we have for you here. Of course, thank you so much for being a member of the flock and supporting the channel. If you have not done so already, reach out to me. Let me know something. I know I'm a broken record. I know we say this over and over again, but if there's anything that I can do for you, let me know. Okay, please, especially if there's any way that I can improve flockfantasy.com. And I would definitely encourage you to go check out the Dynasty research book that we just posted. It's like over 100 pages on flockfantasy.com of how you should be adjusting specifically to your league format with your league scoring, with your league starting lineup requirements, the whole 9 yards. I would really encourage you to check it out, but thank you again for everything, my friend. And real quick, we have a donation coming out from Angelic Ambition. Thank you. Says, trade Justin Herbert for the 103, 105, and either Jordan Love or a 2024 first that's going to be likely late. The other quarterback's Lamar Jackson in a 12-team Superflex format. So if we're going to be trading Justin Herbert for this package, let's replace the picks with the actual names of the players, right? We're going to be trading Justin Herbert for, say, Bryce Young. We're going to be trading Justin Herbert for Jackson Smith-Njigba, and let's just call it Jordan Love. Would I rather have Bryce Young, JSN, and Jordan Love, or Justin Herbert? I personally would rather keep the stud. I personally would rather keep Justin Herbert. If you were in a league where you're having to start 11, 12 guys, and it is that 12-team Superflex format, there I would be fine if you wanted to go through and make that pivot off of Justin Herbert and go get that package. But in the majority of leagues, I think we want to keep the stud in Herbert here. But please, everybody, spam the chat right now. Let me know what y'all are wanting to do. Let Angelic Ambition know what you're wanting to do. I'm assuming that most people are going to go Justin Herbert, but I've been wrong before. I'm wrong all the time. Maybe the Jordan Love hype is a little bit more than we initially thought. But let's see if we have anything. Ian says to keep Justin Herbert as well. Okay, this is what I assumed we were going to be getting. But is there anybody that says anything else? Hey, this is funny. Justin just says Herbert, so it reads out Justin Herbert. Lucas says get the picks. Louis says Herbert. So it looks like the majority of people are going to go ahead and take Herbert. But interesting. Like I said, I think if you have to start 11, 12 guys, there you can talk yourself into the package. But in the majority of leagues, we are going to go ahead. We are going to take the individual player. But let me pull up our next team. This one going to be coming out from Frat Legend. Thank you, my man, for being a member of the flock and supporting the channel, of course. Says, hey, Mason, this is a 10-team, one quarterback PPR non-tight end premium. Take the last 2 seasons. Now we have the 101, 104 in this draft. I have far too many running backs, and I'm looking to grab a couple elite level wide receivers and maybe a tight end upgrade through trade. My main thoughts are to roll with Bijan, Travis Etienne, and Cam Akers as my running backs and move Javonte and Najee with some wide receiver 2s to get a few more wide receiver 1s. Would love to know your thoughts. Thanks. Side note, dropped Fields a few weeks into last season. Oh, dear God. I'm not going to comment on that one, my friend. I don't know what we can say there. But in general, let's go into the league format that we're going to be playing with. So we're going to be starting 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers, a tight end, and 1 flex. So this is a shallow league. Here we are going to be starting a total of 8 offensive players, 7 skill positional players, in a 10-team format. So going back to what we were discussing previously, in comparison to the 14-team that we are looking at right before this, it's a completely different game. They're both Dynasty fantasy football, but it's just completely different. Like I said, my man Frat Legend, I know you have access to the Dynasty research book on flockfantasy.com. Go pull it up. It's under draft guides. I would love for you to check out the research that we've done there and how we should be adjusting to this format in particular. But to summarize it for everybody else, we are going to be looking to make 2-for-1 deals, 3-for-1 deals. We are starting a total of 70 skill positional players across the entire league here. We don't necessarily need to be focusing in on depth. We need to be focusing in on the highest ceiling possible. So quarterback, we have Deshaun Watson and Tua. Nothing to discuss. Strong quarterback room. I think Deshaun Watson should be better this next season. Of course, I was wrong last year when I thought Deshaun Watson was going to be a QB1 coming off the suspension, but hell, I think we can say, okay, well, he didn't really practice with the team. He hadn't played football in so damn long. Now, if he gets the entire offseason to really prepare with the Cleveland Browns, they're able to build this offense around him. Maybe it is a better situation overall for Deshaun Watson, and he can actually find success this next season. Definitely a possibility. I think we can't blame the limited sample and limited preparation on his season last year. Going over to running back, we are in a great spot. We have Najee Harris, we have Travis Etienne, so we have the round 1 guys from 2021. We have Akers as that depth piece. We even have Javonte Williams down there on the IR. And I would say, in general, if we are looking at Javonte Williams, a running back that I don't want to be having to rely on, right? I don't want to have Javonte Williams as our running back 1, as our running back 2, and sit here and say, okay, well, yeah, now all of a sudden, I mean, we are really banking that he is healthy to start the season, that his rehab goes well, and he can actually produce this next year. But if you have him as your borderline running back 3, running back 4, this is a good spot. This is a super, super good spot to be in. But let's go over to wide receiver, where we have Chase, Christian Watson, Jerry Jeudy, Mike Williams down there in the flex. And then going down to the bench, we have Treylon Burks, Joshua Palmer, Donovan Peoples-Jones, Isaiah McKenzie. So in general, a couple things highlighting this league format in long-term moves that we are looking to make as well. Not only do I want to point out that the starting lineup is shallow in general, but so is the bench, right? I mean, because if we're looking at this, I am operating under the assumption that we're most likely going to have to drop about 2 of these guys on the bench to pick up a kicker and a defense before the season starts. We're going to have to drop another player on this bench to be able to activate Javonte Williams off the IR and Trey Lance off the IR when we get the opportunity to. And it looks like we have a couple first-round picks in this year's class. I don't necessarily know how long we want to have these guys in the taxi squad, but in general, going back to the overall strategy in this shallow format, what's going to be difficult is when we have to go through and open up the 4 to 6 roster spots here for us to bring on those rookies if we're deciding to. Who are we dropping? We're dropping Zach Moss, Isaiah McKenzie, then who else? We need to drop 2 to 4 more guys after that. Can y'all please let me know in the live chat right now, if you had to drop 4 more players off this roster that were not named Zach Moss and Isaiah McKenzie, which we've already done, who are you dropping? If you're going off the percent rostered, you're also going to be dropping Jalen Warren, Joshua Palmer, Donovan Peoples-Jones. And then who? This is another issue with these shallow leagues, going back to what we were discussing when we were talking about having to make those 2-for-1 deals, those 3-for-1 deals, because you can't really get too many players in the starting lineup. We just need to have the best studs we can. Not only are we incentivized by getting that starting lineup full of studs, but also we need to open up roster spots. So if we are trying to come up with the deal in general, so like Treylon Burks is a good example of a wide receiver that still has upside, right? You don't really want to be going through and you don't really want to be selling Treylon Burks at this time when maybe his value continues to rise. However, if we were trying to open up roster spots and we are going to have to make those difficult cuts, I don't want to have to cut Donovan Peoples-Jones. I don't want to have to cut Joshua Palmer in this shallow format. What I think we should be doing is I think we should be going through and trying to do that 2-for-1 deal to upgrade somewhere else. I think we should try to package together Treylon Burks and David Njoku, or Treylon Burks and Dalton Schultz, and go get Dallas Goedert. And go get just that one tight end where you are upgrading, you are opening up a roster spot at the same time. That way, when we have to make that decision to bring up Javonte Williams and Trey Lance from the IR, to go and pick up that kicker and defense off the waiver wire, to go and add these 2023 first-round picks to this roster, we're not having to go through and make those difficult decisions of cutting guys like Palmer, cutting Donovan Peoples-Jones, but we have to be putting in the work now before everybody else realizes the same thing. Because what you're going to have is you're going to have a lot of other people that have a roster similar to this, where on the surface, yeah, they can cut Zach Moss, no problem. They can cut Isaiah McKenzie, no problem. But then after that, it will be a few difficult decisions that they're not having to make right this second. So let's make those 2-for-1 deals everywhere we can. Let's make those 3-for-1 deals everywhere we can. Let's open up roster spots, improve the starting lineup. And by opening up roster spots, we are also going to give ourselves the opportunity to go through and work the waiver wire whenever other people in this shallow format have to make cuts. So like I said, my friend, I think that especially in this kind of league, going and reading that Dynasty research book that we have on flockfantasy.com, like I said, just go to the draft section side, we'll definitely be able to help you out. I mean, this is another perfect example. Side note, drop Justin Fields a few weeks into last season. Why did we have to do that? I mean, probably not a good decision regardless of if hindsight's 2020 or not, but why would we ever have to make a decision like that? Why would we have ever made that mistake? Because this roster's too damn shallow and we have too much depth. Studs and duds, studs and duds, studs and duds. This is the perfect example of that kind of strategy working in this format. Whereas the team previous to this, which was that 14-team league where we started 8 skill positional guys across 8 skill positional guys. So across the entire league, it was 112. It's a completely different story. But thank you again, my friend, for being a member of the flock and supporting the channel. I really hope that this was able to help you out in general. I mean, this is a monstrous team. I don't think we need to be talking about anything else in terms of, oh, are we a contender? Are we a rebuilder? We have the 101. We're adding in Bijan Robinson to this starting lineup. We have the 104. We're going to be able to add in another very exciting option. So we know this team's a contender. The only thing to do is start making those 2-for-1 deals and get some studs in return. Okay. But real quick, just to throw up another point that we have. So Peanut Butter Waivers was saying he's cutting Warren, Cam, Moss, Isaiah McKenzie, Joshua Palmer. So if you had to, right, you're cutting freaking Cam Akers here. We don't want to live in a world. We don't want to have a roster where we're having to move on from Cam Akers for absolutely free. But Nicholas says, where can we submit our teams? So yeah, if you are on flockfantasy.com, of course, the first thing to do is go sign up for flockfantasy.com. Use promo code FLOCK, Mother Flocker package. Not only get your teams broken down on this podcast, but get so much more. But once you do that, make sure you just follow the instructions that we have. Join the Discord. Once you join the Discord, go ahead and send your flockfantasy.com username in the join here section. Then the developers are going to go through and link your account and open up all the special permissions that you have in our Discord, which if you used promo code FLOCK with the Mother Flocker package, you will get access to my roster submissions tab here. And then you'll go ahead and you will send that in the roster submissions tab. But think that should be a good enough explanation. Let's go over to our next team. This one going to be coming out from Dang Shoot. Thank you, my man, for being a member of the flock. As always, says, Mason, you roll. Here's my team. Dynasty 10 team, 1 quarterback, PPR, 4-point passing touchdown, half a point per first down, half a point per completion, no tight end premium. So in general, half a point per completion is going to make it where we are significantly more incentivized to go through and pick up quarterbacks that can see a ton of passing volume. You know, in general, if you see quarterbacks with a ton of passing volume but no rushing upside, like if you are looking at, I would say maybe Tom Brady in past years, for example. Obviously, Brady's retired now, but just using this as the perfect example, someone who's leading the NFL in pass attempts, someone who has a ridiculous amount of passing yards and just raw volume, but at the end of the day, they're not scoring a ton of fantasy football points because they have 0 rushing yards. In general, it's not that advantageous to roster them in a regular league, but once you get half a point per first down and half a point per completion, all of a sudden, those quarterbacks that have the passing volume become significantly more appealing. So I would say the Lamar Jacksons of the world, the Justin Fields of the world here are going to actually be a little bit less exciting than they would be otherwise if it was just a little bit of a more normal format. But says, I tried hard to get the 101 this year, but it didn't happen. I'm considering trading for it, but based on my roster and my draft picks, is it worth it? If yes, what would you consider a fair trade in a 1 quarterback format? If no, I'm looking to grab either Gibbs or JSN, another wide receiver, and a quarterback at picks 3, 5, and 7. Also, are there any other moves we should be looking to make? What would you consider my best players to build around? What studs could we look to move off of? I know I'm weak at quarterback and tight end. In general, we're looking at you having Kyler Murray at QB, so I think kind of fine there. My current plan is to compete with my starters and hope for the breakout from London, Burks, Watson, Tony, Bateman, McBride, Lance. I'll say don't be holding your breath on the Bateman, McBride, Tony breakouts, but if I can get multiple breakouts, I could package them together in a month into the season and try to get an elite level tight end or quarterback. If I can't get a better quarterback, my plan is to roll with Wilson until Kyler's back, potentially looking to use Lance as well if he starts. Okay, so let's go ahead. Let's dive into this team. And I will say initially, first thoughts pulling this up. Hell yes, this is a contending team. Hell yes, of course we are going to be looking to contend in 2023. We have multiple top 5 dynasty running backs with both Breece Hall and Travis Etienne. Beautiful. We have some phenomenal dynasty wide receiver ones with A.J. Brown, T. Higgins, London. Obviously, maybe London's not the wide receiver one this season, but he is that long-term wide receiver one. We just needed the situation to get a little bit better. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Let's go position by position here. We have Kyler Murray at quarterback. We have Russell Wilson and Trey Lance as well. So obviously, we have a quarterback room with a whole lot of uncertainty, right? This is a room that saw massive bust last year from Russell Wilson as well as Trey Lance. However, if we were looking at this next season, these guys have a chance, okay? You know, I've already given my spiel on Trey Lance every single video that we've ever made, so I'm sure you don't want to hear it. I'm sure you don't need to hear it. But with Russ, I was not a fan of his last year. I will be fair to him, however, saying that he has had a coaching upgrade, a significant coaching upgrade, arguably maybe the biggest coaching upgrade in the NFL this season. This is a quarterback that also saw injuries to Tim Patrick before the season started. KJ Hamler missed the majority of the season. Cortland Sutton missed games. Jerry Jeudy missed games. Javonte Williams missed pretty much the entire year. Albert O got injured. He was supposed to be the starting tight end Russ was working with. That didn't work out. So if you were looking at the Denver Broncos this next season compared to where they were an offseason ago, even though y'all know we were a Broncos hater, one of the reasons we made so much money last year in underdog is because we were fading the hell out of Russell Wilson, more particular Cortland Sutton. Now, I think you could possibly get by with this quarterback room, and I don't think you need to panic. If the 107, you end up getting a Zach Charbonnet, a Jordan Addison, a Quentin Johnston falling to you, or even if you like Zay Flowers, I would be completely fine if you wanted to pass on the quarterback position there, even if this league is going to highly incentivize grabbing elite quarterback production, given the fact that you are getting half a point per completion, as we already discussed. Now, going over to running back, we have Breece Hall, Travis Etienne, Ramondre Stevenson. Beautiful running back core. We even have Cam Akers as running back 4. What are we supposed to talk about? Going over to wide receiver, we have A.J. Brown, T. Higgins, Drake London. Phenomenal. We have so much depth on this team. with Christian Watson, Treylon Burks, Kadarius Toney, Elijah Moore, Rashad Bateman on the bench. I understand you were talking about possibly waiting for one of these guys to go through and break out, then look to make a 2-for-1 deal to upgrade somewhere else. But I think we just go ahead and make a deal like that today. I think if we could go through and package together Rashad Bateman today with David Njoku, with Ramondre Stevenson, with Kyler Murray, with any of those players and get an upgrade, we're going to go ahead and do so. Because if we're looking at this team, I understand we have these 3 taxi squad spots, right? But if we were to go through and say bring in Jahmyr Gibbs or Jackson Smith-Njigba, whoever falls to 3, but say it's Gibbs. We bring in Jahmyr Gibbs at 3. Say at 5, we bring in Quentin Johnston. At 7, we bring in, say, Zach Charbonnet, right? We're just saying, hypothetical, this is who we get. Are we wanting to keep them on the taxi squad? And even if we do, we still have the 203. We still have the 207. We still have those other picks that we need to make room for. So I would say at minimum, we should expect to go through and have to cut 3 guys from this list. So very similar to what we were talking about with the team previous to this. I mean, this is kind of a similar situation you find yourself in. It's a 10-team shallow format. This starting lineup maybe is a little bit deeper. I mean, it's just a shallow league in general. So very similar to what we were talking about with the team previous to this. And just in case you didn't hear me then, we were talking about definitely, please go to flockfantasy.com. I know you have access to it. Pull up our Dynasty research book. I think it's going to help you out a ton here in adjusting to this league setting. But we are going to be trying to make those 2-for-1 deals, trying to make those 3-for-1 deals. Because let's do the same exercise that we did with the last team. Can everybody please, in the live chat, give me the 3 names you were cutting from this roster? Minimum. We're going to have to cut 3 names. I'm assuming it's going to be 3. We're going to bring up the 103, 105, 107 immediately to the roster. Say we're going to send the 203, 207, 303 to the taxi squad, and we're going to just not draft anybody at the 307. We're going to trade the pick, right? So this is benefit of the doubt. It's kind of the best case scenario. We're having to cut 3 guys from this team. I know a lot of people are going to say Trey McBride initially, but I want to remind you, Trey McBride is your tight end 2 on this team. You only have David Njoku and you only have Trey McBride. So I would make the argument you kind of need a backup tight end, right? So regardless of if we were to cut Trey McBride or not, we would have to add in another tight end. So please, we have over 100 people in this live chat. Can we get a few names out here? Who are the 3 players that you were cutting, not named Trey McBride, after the NFL draft or after your rookie draft? I don't know exactly when your rookie draft is. So I think we have to say we're keeping McBride. My names would be Michael Carter, obviously. Then you hit a wall. Then who the hell are we supposed to move off of? The Rook says Toney, McBride, Bateman. Yeah, like we said, I don't think we should do McBride. I think it's a little bit of cheating. We need that backup tight end. This is Toney, Moore, and Carter. So you're cutting Elijah Moore, Kadarius Toney, Michael Carter. This would probably be my answer as well. Then he says Michael Carter. Jeff says Russ. Like here, we're going quarterback here. I can't even say it's a bad move. Akers, Lance, and Carter. Alec, you're tearing my heart apart here for sure. Definitely. Oh my gosh. Link says gotta trade. This is my statement. This is what I think we have to do. I understand you were wanting to wait until a month into the season and then start making those 2-for-1 deals so we can possibly see if we get a Toney breakout, see if you get an Elijah Moore breakout, see if you get a Rashad Bateman breakout. I think instead we need to go through. I think we need to look to start making these moves immediately. Sell Rashad Bateman and David Njoku and go get Dallas Goedert. You know, that's always who we're bringing up. Go get George Kittle. Go make a move like that. And don't even stop there because we have to make multiple moves. I mean, if we wanted to continue to go down that path, then turn around and sell Elijah Moore and Trey McBride for the best tight end that you can get. Because even if we were to go through and sell Bateman and Elijah Moore and upgrade at both our tight end slots, we still have a team that has Kadarius Toney, Treylon Burks, Christian Watson on the bench that's about to add in possibly Jackson Smith-Njigba or Quentin Johnston. Yeah, so Tobin, I think this is the exact point. Got to try to make a trade even if you're losing slightly. Obviously, you don't want to lose a deal, but sometimes you kind of have to because we either sacrifice a little bit of value and sell a few of these depth pieces for 70 cents on the dollar, or we go through and cut them and drop the dollar for nothing in return. But in general, I really like the team. I think that you're in a phenomenal situation. We just need to go through and make a few moves like that. And you could also try, say, trading Kyler Murray and Christian Watson and getting an elite level quarterback and going and getting a Patrick Mahomes and going and getting a Joe Burrow. Now, full transparency, I have not played in a one quarterback dynasty league since 2017. I mean, we started playing Superflex 2015 and I had so much more fun with it that we went Superflex exclusive in 2017. But for everybody else who plays in one quarterback dynasty formats, can y'all let me know if you think I'm way off base here? Kyler Murray and Christian Watson or Josh Allen? We're probably about to get 50 Josh Allen messages here, but please let me know in the live chat, where are you going with that? Yeah, so Link says, I traded away a bunch of rosterable guys for 2024 first this offseason, included Mooney, Claypool, and Ritter. Yeah, you just have to sometimes move them. Okay, the Rook says Kyler's side. Sean says Allen, easy. Okay, so if we at least have a few people going in opposite directions, maybe there's a chance we get the deal done. I don't want to act like it is a guaranteed, but I'm assuming most people are going Allen. Yeah. Okay, now we have some more. Okay. But thank you again for being a member of the flock and supporting the channel, my man. I really hope that this was able to help you out. I really hope that you got something from it. And as always, if there's anything I can do for you, please do not hesitate to reach out to me, especially if there's any way I can improve flockfantasy.com. You already know. Please let me know. I'll be happy to get it done. But thank you again, everybody, for hanging out with us. Really do appreciate y'all. Really hope that you have a great Sunday. And yeah, if there's anything I can ever do for you, please let me know. I mean, I'm nothing without y'all. So thank you for everything. And I really hope you have a great Sunday.